Okay, so I'll be starting now. First is cartilage. Now see, this is basically a diagrammatic representation of what we have learned. So if you have remembered, there are three types that we have read. First is your perichondrium, then chondroblast, and your chondrocytes. So this is basically your fibrous layer. Now in this fibrous layer, what you will see is your collagen fibers and your this thing fibers like cells. Then comes is your chondroblastic layer. Can you see the difference? So these all are basically your single chondroblastic cells. Whereas in this, if you can see, these are the isogenic cells, the chondrocyte cells that are arranged in the lacunae. So, and this is your matrix. So this is your cartilaginous matrix, chondrocytes, then this will be a fibrous layer, chondroblastic layer, and this will comprise of your perichondrium. So this is your cellular structure of cartilage. This is called as diagrammatic representation. Now this is the diagrammatic representation of your hyaline cartilage. Now hyaline cartilage again will have perichondrium, then we'll have your chondrogenic cells. So these all are your chondrogenic cells which has a potential to develop into chondroblast and then finally into chondrocytes. Now this is your chondroblast. Can you see this chondroblast? And this is your chondrocyte. Now outside covering of the chondrocyte is called as your lacunae. Okay, and here you will see your little bit amount of collagen, then your isogenous group. So basically I've already explained you about isogenous group. Yeah, sure, I will use the pointer. Thanks for reminding. Yeah, I'll start from the beginning. Should I go to the previous slide with the pointer or is that okay? Okay, so from here we will start. So basically this is your perichondrium. So it has two parts, the outer perichondrium and the inner perichondrium. Now outer perichondrium basically just have the collagen fibers. It will have your, these all are your fibrous cells. Okay. Now comes is your chondroblast. So these all are your chondroblasts. Now what is the difference between this cell and this cell? The basic difference is, first, this is immature. Second, this is mature. It is this cell is surrounded by this yellow structure which we call it as lacunae, whereas in this cell you do not see lacunae. So when they become mature and when they are in the lacunae, they are called as chondrocyte, and this is your chondroblast. Then this will be your matrix, and this is your isogenous group. Now what is isogenous group? For example, this cell, this cell, this cell, this cell, they clusters and they form into one group. This is called as your isogenous group. So if I'll ask you the structural organization of the cartilage, you should say that it consists of your perichondrium, it consists of your chondroblast, it consists of your chondrocytes within the lacunae, it consists of your chondrogenic matrix, and they are also seen in the form of an isogenous group at times. So this is how your answer should be. Now see, this is your HNE picture. What we have discussed is what we are again going to revise. See, this is your perichondrium. Now the perichondrium will have these flat cells. Now below the perichondrium you will have these chondroblasts. So these all are your chondroblast cells. Now below the chondroblast is what you are seeing, this your chondrocytes. So these all are your chondrocytes. Now when they are arranged in the clusters, they are called as your isogenous group, and these all are your chondrocytes. So this is a picture of your hyaline cartilage. Now can you see these bluish to pinkish material? These all are your matrix, and they helps in the formation of or in the maintaining the cartilage and the cartilage vitality through these cells. So these all are the matrix. Understood? Okay. Others also can say yes. Okay. Now coming up to elastic cartilage. Now again start. This will be same. It will have perichondrium. This will be same. It will have chondroblast. This will be also same. They will have chondrocyte. Now, what is different? The difference is your this structure. Can you see these black, big lines? These are your elastic fibers. That is why it is called as elastic cartilage. Only difference between hyaline and elastic cartilage is in this you will have elastic fibers. Can you see in this? Now this is again, let's start from the beginning. This is your perichondrium. Now below perichondrium is your osteoblast. Then all this in the picture that you are seeing is your isogenous group. Now in between these chondrocytes, you can see this bright red color, right? Very bright, thick red color lines. These are your elastic fibers. And they were not present in your hyaline cartilage picture, but it is present in here. Then comes is your fibrocartilage. So fibrocartilage will have your type 2 cartilage. The main in the fibrocartilage is your type 1 cartilage. So it will have your type 1 cartilage. It will have your type 2 normal cartilage. Then it will have your lacunae chondrocyte. That would be same. So this is the picture. See this. Can you see these threaded like structures? These all are your type 1 collagen fibers. So these all are your, the reason it is called as fibrocartilage. And these small cells that you are seeing, they are separated, they are compressed. These all are your chondrocytes. So this is your typical type 1 collagen fibers. So this is a picture of your fibrocartilage. So now this is basic difference. In hyaline cartilage, you will see type 2 collagen. In elastic cartilage, you will see type 2 collagen plus elastic fibers. In fibrocartilage, you will see type 2 and type 1 collagen. Now that difference you should remember. In hyaline, only type 2 collagen. In elastic, type 2 collagen plus elastic fibers. In fibrocartilage, you will have type 1, that is the most important thing, and you also have type 2. Now chondrocytes arrangement in hyaline, they are mostly in groups. In elastic they are also again in groups. But in fibrocartilage what is happening is that the amount of the collagen fibers are so much that they are small and they are arranged in a far places. So they are spacely arranged. Now perichondrium coverage, yes, it will be there. In elastic cartilage, yes, it will be there. But in fibrocartilage, it will not be there. Now, where do you see hyaline cartilage? Mainly trachea. That is your windpipe. Okay, trachea is where your windpipe is. Bronchi are related to your lungs. Then your ribs. Then nose, articular end of your epiphyseal plate of long bones. So when I use the epiphyseal word and your long bones, you should relate to the one that we have already discussed, the proximal epiphyseal end, the distal epiphyseal end, and diaphysis. Now where do you see elastic cartilage? In your epiglottis, that is again your in the neck area. Larynx, okay, that is basically, larynx is where you, is your voice box where we speak, where the sound comes. Pinna of your ear, so the pinna is basically an area that is a soft, that's a semi-rigid area in your ear. Then your auditory canal and tube. Auditory canal is basically your eustachian canal. Now fibrocartilage, it is basically your articular disc, intervertebral disc, pubic symphysis, and insertion of tendons. Now main function for cartilage is confer shape and flexibility, importantly for the respiratory tract, forms cartilage model for bone growth in the fetus, then forms smooth surface to provide free movements in the joints. So if I can broadly say that more number of functions which does is basically hyaline cartilage out of 3. Now elastic cartilage, it confers shape and elasticity. So it provides elasticity that will help in prevention through the impact or through the injury. Now fibrocartilage provide resistance to compression, cushioning, and tensile strength. Now next is your bone. Now this is your cellular structure of bone, like how we have done cellular structure of cartilage. Now all these that you are seeing are basically your bony trabeculae. See, these all are your bony trabeculae. Now the bone trabeculae are lined by these small cells. Can you see these cells? These small cells that you are seeing along the lining of the trabeculae, these are called as your osteoblast. Okay. Now the cells that are present inside the bony trabeculae, and it is covered by lacunae. Can you see these cells? These cells, these cells, they are inside the bony trabeculae. These are called as your osteocytes. Okay. So you will have bony trabeculae. First thing. Now there is a lining of the trabeculae by cells which are called as your osteoblast. Now inside the bony trabeculae, the cells which are present is called as your osteocytes. So that is clear. Now what are these areas? Where you can see these blood vessels also, somewhere you can see these osteoclast also. These are basically your bone marrow. You remember we have discussed that there is a bone marrow which consists of your blood vessels which will help in circulation of the blood, provides vitality, provides nutrient to the bone. So these all are the bone marrow structures. Okay. Now can you see this giant cell? It has multiple nucleus. So remember, a cell that is giant, that is big, that has multiple small blue dots. Can you see? These are nucleus. Here also. So they have multinucleated giant cell, that is called as osteoclast. And the difference between osteoblast, osteocyte, osteoclast. So osteoblast and osteocytes are your bone forming cells. They form bone. Osteoclast is your bone resorption cells. They destroy bone. So if anybody asks you about the structure of the bone, you should say that they have trabeculae, bony trabeculae. These trabeculae are lined by cells which are called as osteoblasts. And cells which are present inside the bony trabeculae surrounded by lacunae, these are called as your osteocytes. Then you will have bone marrow space, and then you will have multinucleated giant cells called as osteoclasts. These are bone resorption cells. So this should be your answer. Now this is the picture of your compact bone. Can you see? This is your Hawaiian canal. These all are your osteocytes. Okay, and they are inside the lacunae. So these all are your osteocytes. So they are present in the concentric rings. You remember the last, the circumferential lamella, the concentric lamella, the interstitial lamella. So basically this would be a circumferential lamella. These are circles. If you see, these all are your concentric lamella, and the area that is covering these circles are basically your interstitial lamella. See, this is more highlighted picture. So this is basically your concentric ring lamellas. Okay. Now these all are your lacunae. These all are your lacunae, and this one unit is called as your osteon unit. Okay. These all are your cemental lines. This is your interstitial lamella. All these things. See this. Now this is an H&E picture of your compact bone. So can you see, this is one trabecular bone. Okay. Now can you see these small cells in the picture also? I can say you, these all small cells are basically your osteoblast. And can you see these small cells that are present inside it? These are basically your osteocytes. I'm not able to find basically osteoclast in here. Otherwise I have also shown you that. Okay. And there is an outer layering called as endosteum, and then there is a covering protected to it, that is your periosteum. So this is your periosteum and this is your endosteum. Okay. Now this is your cancellous bone. Now again see this bone and see the previous bone. What is this? This is very compact. There is no trabeculae, but in here you will see these spaces. These are called as your trabecular spaces. So these all are your trabecular spaces. They are basically hyaline cartilage, filled with hyaline cartilage. These are your bony trabeculae. Then this is filled with hyaline cartilage. Inside you will have osteocytes. The covering in this lining you will see osteoblast, and this is your bone marrow space. So if I show you this picture and this picture, you will should be able to differentiate that this is your compact bone and this is your cancellous bone or spongy bone or trabecular bone. Say this anything, okay? So you can easily appreciate the difference. That's on the basis of the spaces, the empty spaces. Understood all of you or not? Okay, that is it we have for your demonstration. So this is basically what we have discussed. So you should be able to recollect what we have discussed. So in short, if we are talking about, if we are just in short, if I like to brief it out, it will be like that there are two important structures that is needed for the skeletal meshwork of our body. What are those? Those are your cartilage and bone. What is the difference between cartilage and bone? First is one is rigid, that is bone. Other one is not so rigid. Why one is rigid? Because it has the admixture along with the organic matrix. It also have the admixture of the calcium and the other salts that provides it's the rigidity. Whereas in the cartilage, this is not present. Now, if you are coming to the cartilage, there are three types of cartilage. There is hyaline cartilage, then there is elastic cartilage, then there is fibrocartilage. Now, what is the difference between them? In hyaline cartilage, you will see chondrocytes, chondroblasts, you will see they are arranged in isogenic groups and they are having type 2 collagen fibers. Whereas in elastic fibers, you will see type 2 collagen fibers. Along with it, you will also see elastic fibers. So elastic fiber is one additional feature. Whereas if you are talking about fibrocartilage, so in fibrocartilage, the chondrocytes, they are not arranged in groups, they are scattered, arranged and sparsely arranged around the areas, and they have both type 2 as well as the important thing is type 1 collagen fibers. So that would be there. So this is your cartilage. Then second comes is your bone. So bone are basically the rigid and they made up the skeleton of your body. They provide the structure to your body. They protect your cells. They protect your vital organs. Sorry. Okay. Now, what are the cells for cartilage? Chondroblast and chondrocytes. What are the cells for bone? Osteoblast, osteocytes, osteoclast. In this, osteoblast and osteocytes are your bone forming cells, osteoclast are your bone resorption cells. Now, what are the different classification of the bone based on the nature of the ossification? It could be intramembranous or it could be your endochondral bone ossification. More common is endochondral bone ossification that you will see in long bones. Then on the basis of their structure, they could be long bone, they could be short bone, they could be irregular bone, they could be sesamoid bone. Okay, so these are and they could be flat bones. Okay, then based on the amount of the ground matrix that is present in them, they could be compact bone or they could be cancellous or spongy bone. Okay, so long bones are basically what are the parts of the bone? It will have your distal and proximal epiphysis, and then it will have your central diaphysis. So inside the bone, what is the outer covering of the bone is basically your periosteum. What will you have? You will have the spongy bone that will have trabeculae. In compact bone, you will not have trabeculae. Then you will have medullary space inside in the center of the bone. So that is also again very important. So this will be a part of your bone. Then you will have short bones. Short bones are basically present in your metacarpals or tarsals. Then you will have flat bones. They are again one important bones. Why? Because they provide protection from the vital organs such as your brain. It's because they form the skull. Then sternum and your ribs, they protect your heart. So like that. Then there would be irregular bone which do not can be classified into any shape, and the most common are your vertebrae. Then you will have your sesamoid bone. The classic example of sesamoid bone is your kneecap. So this is done. Now coming up to the constituents of the bone. Constituents of the bone will mainly be your inorganic and then your organic component of the bone, and the remaining part is your water. This is all done. Then comes is your cells. You will have osteoblast cells, which are the lining cells of the bone. Then you will have your osteocytes that are embedded inside the bone or inside the trabeculae of the bone, surrounded by lacunae. Then you will have multinucleated giant osteoclast that causes your bone resorption. Finally, you will have bone ossification. So there will be endochondral bone ossification, intramembranous bone ossification. In endochondral bone ossification, first a cartilage is formed, then there will be a ossification inside the cartilage that will start from the center, then it will reaches to the ends, the proximal and the distal end, and finally it will involve the entire length of the bone. So that will be your endochondral bone ossification. Secondarily will be your intramembranous. So there will be mesenchymal cells that will further develop that will further give you a matrix, and they will further develop into your osteoblast and osteocytes and develop into a bone. Classic example is your skull bone. Then you will have bone resorption. So bone resorption is done by your osteoclast. Then you will have bone remodeling. In bone remodeling, it's a continuous process in which a deposition and resorption of the bone, this parallel activity has to go on, and that will give you two type of lines: the resting lines and your reversal lines. In one line you will see that there is an arrangement of the bones in a rhythmic pattern, and in one you will see a line of demarcation. There will be a line in the one end you will see that there is bone formation, and the other end you will see that there is bone destruction. So that is all about your bone and cartilage. I hope this lecture, this demonstration, you have understood, you will be able to recall. Okay, any questions you have? Okay, then I hope you will revise it and you will read it again and revise it in a manner that how I have taught you in the end. Like when in the end you have read it, everything in a summary you should say like how I have said it in the end. So that means that you have understood the topic rather than memorizing it. That is very important. Okay, so I'm ending this session now.